Hello guys, I have exciting news. So today I have received the 3D printed parts that I was waiting for to be able to test if the custom board that I made for the Lenovo X230, it's gonna actually be able to fit into the laptop. And I'm happy to say that yes, it will fit. It will be a drop-in replacement. So we have over here side by side. I hope you can see it well. We have side by side the two connectors. The yellow one is the old one that all of us have in our X230s, and the white one is the new one. Now, the cable that I'm using at the moment in this one, it's not the final one. So this one is just for my own tests and my use purposes. The ones you can order and you will receive, they will have a shorter cable just like the original one, so it will make it easier for you to replace. Anyway, it will be a drop-in replacement as I've promised. Now, in today's video, we're gonna go through a few details just to make sure everything is crystal clear from the start. So I will explain the differences because many of you have been asking what is the difference between a 60-watt charger, a 90-watt charger. You've been asking in the form of why do I need to put a resistor value and what resistor value do I need to put. So I'm going to be going through that. After these details, I'm going to be going through the testing. So I'm going to explain what kind of testing I have performed to make sure that this board is going to work as expected. The next step is gonna be assembly. So I'm gonna show you how I fit this custom board with this custom case into my X230. Indeed, it's gonna require for me to clean the hot glue that I've put in previously. So I might skip a little bit over there on the assembly part. And the last part, but probably the most important for many of you, is gonna be how to order the new component. For those of you who are interested in the USB type shape, so the ones who have the Lenovo T440 or the X240 and so on, yes, I've heard you, I've seen it, but the X230 was the first on my list as it was the title of the video, plus I also have an X230. Once I'm done with this connector, I'm gonna move on to the one for the newer generations. So I'm going to be creating that as well, but I will have to see how I can overcome some limitations. Now let's go to the working desk and let me explain first the charging differences, and then let's go through all the details that I have mentioned earlier. Come on. So as I've promised, I'm going to explain a little bit what's happening with the charging. So I'm going to be using these papers and I'm going to be writing here as I don't have a whiteboard. So in our case, we have the charger, which is going to be represented here just like this. Okay, so that's your AC charger or power supply. It's not really correct defined as a power supply, but just for the purpose of the video, it's going to work. So these ones, they are generally labeled as 45 watts, 65 watts, 90 watts. So these are the most common ones you can get for Type-C charging. Also very common is an 18 watt. Now this is the power that they can output. Your laptop, depending on the configuration it has, it's gonna have different power requirements. Now your laptop can require a 45 watt. This is generally, but it's not mandatory, generally for an Core i3 processor. In this case, I discuss the X220, X230s, not above X230. Okay, then you're gonna have at 65 watt, generally you're gonna have an i5. Sometimes sometimes an i7, and at 90 watt we definitely have generally i7. Now the relationship between these two, it's an interesting one. So if you use, I'm gonna split this in half. So if you use a 90 watt, 65 watt or 45 watt charger on a 45 watt requiring laptop, it's all okay. So all this free in this area, it's all okay, because the laptop has either the power it needs, either a bit higher or even higher power available to it. It doesn't mean the laptop is going to pull all that power. Then on the 65 watt laptop, if we give it 90 watt, it's okay. If we give it a 60 watt charger, it's okay as well. If we give a 45 watt charger to a 65 watt laptop, it's gonna be slower charging and it's gonna be as well possibly not charging as quick as before. Now there is another problem here, which is if we are trying to draw 65 watt out of a 45 Type-C charger, the general result is we're not gonna be able to actually charge. So if the laptop is with the battery fully drained, you want to power on the laptop, you want to start working on it, and you're gonna be using a 45 watt power supply, it's not gonna work. If the laptop is powered off and you have a 45 watt power supply, then it's gonna be able to charge it. Now, after the laptop is charged about 50%, it should work okay with the 45 watt charger, but I personally don't recommend that. So if you have a 65 watt requirement from your laptop, use a 65 watt power supply or a 90 watt power supply, okay? Now, we're gonna move on to the next one. The next one is gonna be a 90 watt requirement from the laptop. In that case, I strongly recommend you just go with a 90 watt charger. It's gonna be the same problem as we've discussed here if you use a 65 or a 45 watt charger, but I don't recommend that, okay? Worst it can happen is that you rely on your fuse, a resettable fuse, or on the protocol from the Type-C charger. And that's all right, but you're not going to be able to charge and it's going to be frustrating. For this purpose, the parts that are going to be available to buy are going to be either a 65 watt part, either a 90 watt part. So what this means is with that little resistor that we have inside, the laptop will be able to know, okay, let me draw the laptop first, sort of like this, okay? So the laptop will know I can have 65 watt and here we'll say I can have 90 watt. Basically the laptop knows how much it can get. Again, if you put a 90 watt part into a 65 watt laptop, that's absolutely fine, absolutely no problem, okay? And if you have a 45 watt laptop, so if your laptop is going to be 45 watt, then you can go with a 65 watt connector, also a 90 watt, that's fine, okay? Just don't do it the other way around. Of course, you will be able still to use power supplies like this one. It's just a typical power supply. This one has an output of 65 watts, which is labeled just here. I hope you'll be able to see that. So it's a 20 volt 3.25 amp. Yeah, that's a 65 watt over there. One thing to bear in mind is, in order to be able to trigger these powers, your power supply has to be able to output 20 volts and then a certain amount of amps. So it's going to be, for 45 watts you will have 2.25 amps. For 65 watt you will have 3.25 amps, and for 90 watt you will have a 4.25 amps. Okay, that's what you'll have to check on your output of your power supply. Now, as the theory is done, I'm going to move on to the next part of the video, which is going to be testing, and I'm going to explain to you how I have conducted the testing for this. So for testing, I've been taking the board itself. Yeah, it's that small. This is the board that we have. This is the IC, and here is the place for the resistor to tell it what kind of power we can offer to the laptop. Yeah. Normally that part sits into the charger, into the original charger, but now we have to do something different because Type-C protocol works in a different way. So what I did in order to test this is I have used a power supply initially of 65 watts. Then I have connected a cable between the two of them, and here I have connected a load. So between these 2 points we had a load. Now I have been running for initially 45 watts 1 hour. Normally when you're charging, this is not happening. You're generally pulling the maximum power for probably half an hour, not 1 hour. After this, I went and I have pulled 65 watts out of it for another 1 hour. Everything went fine. Then the next test was using a power supply of 90 watts I have connected a load of 90 watts and I have run this for 1 hour and then once again 90 watts for 1 hour. There have been no problems, everything worked absolutely fine. The only thing that I can mention over here is that if you demand more from a smaller power supply, the result is going to be that you're going to get 0 volts. Okay, so this means you will not be charging. This is not a problem, but bear in mind this detail and bear in mind that you rely on the source. Okay, so you rely on this one to stop the charging. They are forced to implement this by the Type-C power delivery protocol, but then again I would not recommend to test if it has been implemented. I would recommend just go out and buy a 65 watt charger if you have a 65 watt laptop. This is a true 65 watt charger and it's small, as you can see, it fits in my palm, right? And the 90 watt ones are just a tad bigger, a little bit bigger. Just go and buy one and you'll be fine. You can charge your other laptops with it, you can charge your phones with it. move on to the assembly part. Now in this part I'm gonna do the disassembly of my laptop. You've seen that in my previous video. You'll be able to find other tutorials for this. So I'm gonna be recording, but I'm gonna be fast forwarding all this part up to the point where I get back in my laptop the original connector, and I'm gonna show you how to switch from the original one to the custom made one, which is the purpose of this video. Let's start. So this is pretty much what you will be greeted with when you open your X230. Yeah, you have your standard connector over here, and you'll have to pull out the board and unplug the connector below, or just take out the screw here. Then pull out the bracket you have. And then you can lift the connector a little. And once that's done, you can pull everything out and then disconnect from here. Now I didn't connect it again because I'm gonna have to put a new one in. So take this one out. So we're gonna put the new one in now. Now the way in which we're gonna put the new one in is we have the new connector over here and we have the board. First of all, we will align the pins. So the pins are at the top part of the connector here where my finger is. Check that on the connector and then plug it in. Now as you see, it comes a little bit angled, so I will use a tweezer to help me to push it in. Okay, now it's nice and secure inside, so we can try to fit the connector into the slot before assembling and fitting the board back. So we have the connector in place. Now we can fit the bracket. There is a slight movement, so I will add a little bit of foam. Okay, now I'm gonna have to secure it with a screw. Yeah. Okay, now it's nice and smooth. So I'm gonna have to include that in the kit as well. So don't worry, you're gonna have all what you need. Here is the connector now. We can test to see if a Type-C connector can plug in. Absolutely perfect, no problem. This is a bit loose, but that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be extremely tight, so it's all okay. So we're gonna proceed with the reassembly now. I'm gonna speed up this part again because it's just the same process done in reverse. Now that we have the laptop assembled, let's try and see if it charges. So let's put it to the side here. The connector is here. Now I'm going to bring in a 45-watt power bank. I have presented this in the previous video. And in order to see how it does, we're going to connect it to the power bank using a USB analyzer. So for the moment, yeah, we can see that it's pulling 19.8 volts, which is a good amount, and it's pulling 47 watts. Okay, so this is good. I'm gonna try to zoom in. So this is a 19 watt that we are pulling, sorry, this is a 20 volt almost that we are pulling, which is okay, and a 47 watts. So mission accomplished. And in this moment, we are sure that everything is working fine. What we can do more is we can try to power on the laptop. Oh, it's absolutely powered on already. I just have to set up the time and date. So I'm gonna go off camera to do this, and I'm gonna come back once everything is done. Now my laptop is fully booted, so we'll connect again the charger just to confirm everything is fine. So here we are. We have connected. We have for the moment 45-46 watts pulling out of it. And over here we have the state of the battery saying charging. My battery is pretty charged at this moment, but you can see it is charging, okay. At this moment it's pulling 46 watts, which refers back to the theory I was saying earlier. Now this is a 45 watt power bank, and it's pulling to the higher limit of it. So if it would try to pull more than 45-46 watts, probably in the range of 48 or 49 watts, then my power bank will just stop delivering. So I would have to use a normal brick to charge. But for the purpose of this demonstration, is absolutely perfect, and I think this is mission accomplished. You can see the LED here being green and constantly on, which means it's charging. Yeah. If we unplug, then the LED will remain on for a little while. It should start blinking soon. Okay. And now we can see it says here battery discharging. Here it says discharging as well. I hope this will come okay on the camera. And this means that we are mission accomplished in this moment. Now we'll talk about ordering these parts. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I hope that this is the part you are hoping to see. Now, in order to order this part, you will have to follow a few steps. In the description of the video down below, you're gonna find a link to the Tindy store where I sell this product. It is completely manufactured by me. I do live in the Far East, so don't be worried when you say that the location of the store is somewhere in the Far East. I do ship through Tindy, and I consider that's the best way for everyone because you're double protected. You're protected through PayPal and you're protected through the Tindy's store policy, okay? So you'll be completely safe buying the product like that. What I would like to let you know is that initially the product is going to be available for about 2 weeks as a wish list. Now, I have the following request from you. Please subscribe to the wish list only if you will purchase in the moment when it's going to be available. The reason for that is that I do have to order all the parts and I have to start assembling. And I need to know how many parts I can order. This is why it will be available for about a week and a half as a wish list, because I need to know how many parts do I need to order. I do not have a manufacturing facility. Everything is built in my lab. I do have the enthusiasm, but I lack the means that big companies have. So I need your support in this. I need you to subscribe, knowing that you will buy this product. And the moment it's going to become available, you're going to get an email from Tindy and you will be able to purchase. I ship fairly quickly, The first batch is gonna take probably a little bit longer because all the parts have to arrive. This means that in the moment you'll be able to order, you'll place your order, you'll have to pay, and probably in 5-6 days after that, the product is gonna be shipped. After the first batch, I'm gonna be having a small stock of components, so I'm gonna be able to ship in 2 to 3 days. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for the interest. And I hope to see most of you going to the Tindy store and subscribing as interested to buy the product with the view of purchasing it in 1.5 to 2 weeks. Thank you very much.